Okay, I'm directing this to IB History 12 students that are virtual. I want to give some advice about how I think you should organize notes and generally how you should review for paper 3, which is the information. It's based on the information that you learned in my class in 11th grade. So this is what a paper, the front of a paper 3 booklet looks like. Notice it's normally quite long. It's a marathon. This year it will not be, and you have to answer 3 questions. Okay, so normally it's 2.5 hours, but now it's going to be this year, 2021, 1 hour and 45 minutes. So it's cut down to a third of the time, but you only have to answer 2 questions. How does that help you? Well, it's going to give you more choices of questions to answer. I think you should, in studying, I don't think you can study in depth all the things we talked about last year. So I want you to focus on the second half, on the Great Depression and the Mexican Revolution. I did a little review session, one each day, in Mr. Richardson's in-person IB 12 class. We completed an organizer. It's not really designed to, be appropriate notes to get ready for paper 3. It's just designed to jumpstart your knowledge. If you can get some notes, I just don't have time to make videos. They would be very long. So if you can get your hands on somebody who has good completed notes, great. If not, don't worry. You still can use and organize your own notes, which they're going to have to do anyway. That was just designed to be a little bit of a prelude. So focus on those 2 topics. And you might also add something called, we did a unit, not done this in several years, called America on the Global Stage, about foreign policy between 1898 or so and 1918. And that's a pretty short unit, and you don't have a lot of notes on that, and you could probably condense those and review that pretty easily, giving you 2 more choices of questions to answer. But focus on the Great Depression and the Mexican Revolution. Let me show you what this test looks like. So there are 18 sections with 2 questions each. Okay, just go to the end here, and this goes to stuff that we did not learn about. You may think, oh, there's civil rights questions. Could I answer one of those with my knowledge from Mr. Richardson's class? Maybe, but it's probably not a good idea. So let's go back up here to, okay. Section 11 is the Mexican Revolution. And you've got 2 questions, social factors in the outbreak. It's talking about the Porfiriato and the achievements and failures of the Carranza administration. So if you review your notes and correctly, you should be able to do those. The Great Depression is discuss the nature and efficacy of the New Deal. Well, you should do a pretty good job on that. Then the second one is with reference to one Latin American country, and you would have to choose Brazil. Evaluate the extent of popular mobilization and repression. That might be hard with the brief lectures I get. You could answer a question about economics, maybe of the depression in Brazil, but perhaps not the politics. Well, I do touch on that. So, but that's still 3 questions that you can answer just on those topics, if that's what you study, and you only need 2 this year. And before that is the emergence of Americas and the global affairs. And number 19 is evaluate the causes of the Spanish-American War. Well, if you chose to give yourself that 3rd section, I did a really good job in a fairly succinct way with that question. And then Wilson's policy of moral diplomacy was a failure. And there was one lecture entitled Wilson and Moral Diplomacy. I think you did that pretty effectively. So that's why that's maybe something to consider adding. So how do you do this? Well, first of all, you take your notes, and I hope your notes are complete. And if they're not, if you see some holes, you still have access to my lectures. Then you want to make sure your notes are in chronological order and start reviewing them and condensing them, getting rid of things that you're confident you know. compressing them down to the stuff you would want to review at the last minute, the night before paper 3. And you would do this for each subject, condense. For the Mexican Revolution, you want to start with the chronology. And by the way, if you're confused about that, if you still have access to Underdogs, there's a nice, in the front matter, there's a nice chronology. For the Great Depression, if you, in addition to your notes, your lecture notes, if you annotated FDR's alphabet soup, that would be a great thing to review. Annotations allow you to review a book, and that was very short, quickly. But regardless, it would be a good reference. If you have a question like, what was the Rural Electrification Administration? I wrote that down, but don't know what that was. Well, that you can easily find that and get a little more detail in FDR. It has an index. So condense down to something that you can digest in an hour or so review the night before paper 3, and that's how I would study for it.